Browns back at it here on Monday out of the bye week, a bonus day, so they were on the practice field. And of course, the big news today, Kevin Stefanski has handed play calling over to Tommy Rees. So Mary Kay, the really big fix for this offense, I'm sure there will be some smaller things we'll notice as the week goes on and as they get into the game on Sunday against the Jets. But the big change is Tommy Rees will now be the play caller for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, and I really think that this was a great idea because there were not many other things that they could do to fix this offense, and they had to do something. They're 31st in the NFL. I think they're 30th in points scored per game, and they had to make some kind of a change. It wasn't going to be quarterback. There are no new receivers coming in here, and so they had to do something. And this gives them a fresh set of eyes. It gives them a former college offensive coordinator who's working with rookie quarterbacks in Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and he brings that college vibe. So I think he'll bring something new, a different energy, and just a different vibe to the offense. And I just think it was definitely the way to go.
Yeah, Ash, I think that's the big thing is like you just had to do something. And aside from changing quarterbacks, which they're not going to do right now, giving things over to Tommy Rees was kind of that, hey, we got to do something. You can't stick with the status quo.
Yeah, it just seems to be the most accessible change that they can make coming out of the bye, where they don't need to add anything or make a big positional change. But look, you're trying something, and I think we were all on the same page with this idea when we potted last week. But for me, it's just this idea of, will it change everything? No, I don't think that's feasible, but it might provide something. I think it's kind of the same line of thinking of going from Joe Flacco to Dillon Gabriel. At that point, they needed a change. We're now to the point post-bye where they need some kind of spark.
Now, speaking of quarterback, and of course them not changing quarterbacks, we got to keep an eye on backup quarterback as we go into this week once again, because Shedeur Sanders was not back on the practice field. Of course, he was dealing with that back injury that kept him out of the New England game. So Mary Kay, we're keeping an eye on, will it be Shedeur Sanders as the backup? Will Bailey Zappi go again? Just monitoring that backup position.
That's right. He's making progress, and he's doing better, but he was not out there today. Again, this was an extra practice day, a little bonus day coming out of the bye. So he still has plenty of time to get ready to return to his QB2 role by the time that they go to New York and face the Jets on Sunday. But they also don't have to rush it because they have Bailey Zappi ready to stand in there, and he actually has a lot more experience than Shedeur Sanders. So it probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Bailey had to remain QB2 for another week. So we'll have to see how that goes, but it was an interesting development today.
Yeah, just one of those things on the Monday after the bye week where we're standing out there actually saying, wait a second, where is Shedeur Sanders at?
Yeah, that's, I think, basically how it went down exactly, where you and I looked at each other, Dan, and I was like, I don't see number 12 out there, and you kind of confirmed what I was seeing. But look, this is obviously something we saw it heading into the New England game. Shedeur Sanders, his name alone continues to move the needle, and it's going to be something that people are interested in a game where, quite honestly, two teams with losing records right now, there's not, I don't think, going to be nationally a ton of intrigue, but Shedeur Sanders, there always will be.
Now, some good news for the Browns on offense. Cedric Tillman, he's been designated to return. It sounds like he's going to make his return on Sunday in New York and Mary Kay for a receiving core. And look, Isaiah Bond didn't practice today, so we're keeping an eye on that. For a receiving core that needs all the help it can get, Cedric Tillman provides just that.
Yeah, he does, and he provides that big body at receiver that they really need. Most of their guys are pretty small, and they're not able to necessarily play tall ball with their wideouts. They can with their tight ends, but not with the receivers. So that'll be good for them to have him back. And he's also, I believe, the only receiver, I could be wrong about this, that has a touchdown catch this season. And he has two of them. So they need him to get back out there, get in the end zone, and just have another weapon for Dillon to go to.
I think you're right. I'm having trouble. I'm racking my brain. I'm having trouble remembering a receiver touchdown. So if you're not right, you're not far off. Ashley, they need all the help they can get. Ced Tillman was having a nice season. Of course, we saw what he did last year before the concussion, so maybe he can kind of pick up and help out a little bit.
Yeah, I am kind of fascinated by this idea because last year, even before Ced got hurt, he talked about like having to adjust for teams' game planning for a lot of what he does, especially like the deep crossers, the things they like to run with him. So I am curious, like, can he take some pressure off of Jerry Jeudy? Because without Ced Tillman, Isaiah Bond hasn't been able to get it going. I mean, Jamari Thrash was the only guy against New England that made any catches in that receiving core. So certainly I'm curious if he can take pressure off of Jerry and help get him going a little bit.
Okay, we'll have full coverage of everything that happened here as the Browns begin preparations for the New York Jets, all at cleveland.com/Browns.